Hey everyone, Cindu here. I wanted to take a few moments to explain what I mean when I say equity is not a substitute for excellence. So, a few months ago, I was in a meeting with the executive team of a venture capital firm who had been vetting me for several months. I had my presentation all ready to go, and to my surprise, I walked into a pretty hostile environment. And the hostility was due to the skepticism, the anger, and the faulty ideas that one of the co founders held about diversity, equity, and inclusion work. So this co-founder made it really clear to me during the meeting that he believed that investing in DEI and working to diversify his organization would mean that they would be settling for subpar talent while passing over more qualified, talented, and deserving employees. So this experience was pretty frustrating, but simultaneously it was an eye-opening one. And it helped me to understand just how many decision makers and people who sit in positions of power truly believe the faulty notion that equity is a substitute for excellence. So this belief is oftentimes perpetuated by uninformed, privileged people who sit in positions of power who just can't fathom the idea that a person from a historically excluded identity group like a Black woman is just as, if not more, intelligent, hardworking, and talented as someone from a more dominant and more privileged identity group such as a white man. And oftentimes, these same folks view equity as a form of oppression and reverse discrimination and a handout that's taking away opportunities from them and people who look like them. In a society that's riddled with long-standing systemic inequalities like the United States, equity practices, which are really designed to increase access and opportunities and resources, are necessary to ensure that all Americans obtain upward mobility, success, and eventually achieve equality. However, without equity, equality just isn't possible. What equity requires is a redistribution of access and opportunities and resources, and it means acknowledging that not everybody comes to our workplaces or our classrooms with the same level of preparedness, opportunities, or social capital. It also means that sometimes we have to give more to those who have been disadvantaged, like creating scholarships specific to Indigenous people that are only open to Indigenous students, or starting an employee resource group that centers the identities and the experiences of LGBTQ plus IA employees, or creating initiatives that are only open to women identifying employees, such as the Chicago Women Leadership Accelerator, which is an organization I happened to co-found a year ago. So as a nation, I think we talk a lot about equity, but we're not doing a great job of walking our equity talk. And that's because enacting equity is something that isn't easy for everyone to swallow, especially for people from privileged identity groups who have always benefited from a society that was built to advantage them. And also for those who hold the faulty belief that intelligence, talent, and ability are only held by certain people who belong to certain identity groups. One of the biggest reasons, I think, for resistance to equity is that we have been socialized as a society to believe that treating people differently is considered to be discrimination and is wrong. But in reality, equal treatment in a society that is riddled with systemic discrimination like the United States only works to uphold and perpetuate inequalities. So if we want equality, differential treatment is necessary. Over the last year, there's been a great deal of pushback to equity programs that work to help minoritized groups achieve success. One example is a lawsuit against the Fearless Fund, who is a now well-known VC fund that only invests in women of color, a population that receives less than 1% of all VC dollars. The Fearless Fund was created to increase access to capital for women of color. And this org exists to level out that playing field, that uneven playing field that women of color have been forced to navigate for decades, and create opportunities to get in front of decision makers and funders. So I know I'm biased because I am a woman of color, but women of color are just as brilliant as white men. And women of color receive only 1% of VC dollars, while white men receive 75% of VC dollars. So in order to disrupt this huge funding disparity, we need more equity-based organizations and programs like the Fearless Funds. We don't need more lawsuits. So if we truly are committed to equality for all in our nation, then it's so important for us to stop crying about the opportunities that are created to help historically marginalized identity groups move up the economic ladder. And I think it's so important for us to work towards being selfless and work for the prosperity of identity groups that we don't personally identify with. We also need to do some looking in the mirror and self-reflection and take steps to disrupt the racial and gender biases that all of us hold and begin to understand that women and racially minoritized people can also be incredibly intelligent and that they too have brilliant and innovative ideas and a work ethic that is unmatched by most. With increased opportunities and access, I know that we can and will be our ancestors' wildest dreams. So please remember that equity is not a substitute for excellence. Thanks for listening.